Yo, welcome to another wonderful episode of Trip Off This, a podcast where we talk about wild things for you to trip off. That's music, politics, games, tech, really whatever we want. My name is Tevin. The person to my left, the face you're about to see, the voice you're about to hear is my main man, Josiah.
Yo.
And today, we have a very special guest. It's a very special episode. This episode's going to be kind of MMA-centric. We're big MMA fans here at the Trip Off This podcast. If you didn't know, now you know. We are here with a very special athlete. We are here with Arthur Mpofu. And Arthur Mpofu, and he is the Cage Titans 135 bantamweight champion. I don't think you guys watching at home know just how gangster that really is. Like, let me try to... All right, for the casual... Now, I've never fought, right? But I've done very light training, right? But I watch it every single weekend. I watch it like a straight-up nerd. I'm watching MMA, UFC, hours a week, right? And, like, MMA is a really... I'm just going to rant a little bit. MMA is a really amazing thing to watch because you have to understand everything, I'd imagine, and I've heard other fighters talk about this, but everything in your body when you're walking out of the locker room, you have to understand you're about to get locked in a cage. There's no way out. You're about to get locked in a cage with you and another person of equal size and stature who has specifically been training to separate you from your consciousness. Like that, everything in your body when you walk towards that instinctually is telling you that you're walking towards danger. Your primal instinct is telling you, yo, fight or flight. And I feel like flighting right out of there, bro, most times, right? So let me just go to the professional in the house. Describe for the people who maybe have never seen an MMA fight in their life what that walk is like.
So the walk, like the first time for me, what the crazy thing was it's like I started walking. I was fine when my coach was wrapping my hands. I was cool with it. There's no problem. I didn't care. I was like, yeah. He's talking to me. He's just like, you're going to go in there. He's just going to visualize. He's like, don't visualize them raising your hand. I'm like, okay, now you're telling me a lot. So then now we're walking down the stairs, and all of a sudden I'm just like, how did I get here? And like, what am I doing here? It's one of those things come up to you. But as soon as you hear the crowd, the thing is, like, he tells me, one of the most important things our coaches tell me is, don't get drawn into the crowd. Like, embrace it. Like, feed off their energy. Don't try to be too excited. So I kind of, saw everybody. I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of people here. And the lights, and I'm walking towards the cage. Now I'm nervous.
Yeah, and especially because, it's one thing to, all right, I'm an athlete. I've walked to a football field or a basketball court, and it's like, all right, I'm nervous because there's a lot of people watching in the stands, like you said. But, the most embarrassing thing that could happen to me is, what, I get dunked on? That's, worst case, worst case scenario, I get crossed up or someone catches a touchdown on me. But it's just such a different thing when, I might get knocked out in front of everyone I know. I might get put to sleep in front of everyone I know. That nervousness. But it's about conquering that, I'd imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, how many fights have you had?
I've had 4 fights.
4 fights. And your record?
Is 4-0.
4-0. Never.
Well, I had a Thai smoker to I just want to get the clear. So I had a Thai smoker. That's where I first initially started. Mm-hmm. And thereafter, because my coach is he's very smart with the whole game plan and getting ready for MMA. He's not going to just throw you in there. He's going to get you ready. You have to do some grappling tournaments.
Important.
You have to get some striking tournaments in there. So then we put it all together. The part that people really struggle with is blending it all together.
Absolutely.
I've noticed.
Absolutely. And, that's another thing for people who might not have a lot of MMA background or knowledge. We're talking about there's so many different disciplines that go into what he does. There's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, Sambo. There's so many different styles and Taekwondo. Every type of it's mixed martial arts. It's every martial art you could imagine, the best, most effective strategies in that. And that's another thing you just hit on. I'm all over the place. But that's another thing you just hit on. Even though it's a one-on-one fight, right? Yeah. People fail to kind of understand most times that it's a team sport. You are so...
thought about that.
It's a team sport. You have it's one person in the octagon for
Yeah,
a
but
ring.
there's people, I guess.
There's so many people behind you. There's your training partners, your sparring partners, your coaches, and again, you have coaches for every discipline that you train. Like Arthur just said, it's about combining that. He had to have kickboxing matches before he had his first MMA fight, and before he had his first MMA fight, he had to enter a grappling tournament, enter a jiu-jitsu tournament. It's so many disciplines, which is just kind of mind-bending to the average sports fan who just watches people play football. All you have to do is learn how to play football. You don't have to learn how to play football, soccer, baseball, and basketball,
That
and
is
then
true.
go into one thing where it's
That'd be a crazy sport.
yeah, that's like basketball. Yeah, like to the 10th degree. Something else I heard a fighter explain that was kind of weird was like, what was it like the first time you actually hit somebody?
Okay, so this is all right. So when I walked in, I was like nervous before I got to the stairs. So as I walked in, I felt like I was at home. I felt it was like, wow. I was like, this is where I belong. So then he's like, Arthur, you ready? He's like, Jameer, you ready? I can remember this. And then all of a sudden, it just spaced out, and I just focused on him. We're moving around, and he's throwing bombs. All I remember just weaving, getting out of the way. And then like I saw in slow motion, he was moving his head back and forth. I was like, I'm gonna kick him in the head. So as the second time, he like leaned, because he leaned to this side. As soon as he leaned to that, crack, made contact, and that was like, I just kicked him in the head with no shin guards.
Yeah.
And this is serious. And like all I just remember was just like, I gotta do something. I just grabbed on him, held him, and like he was just so rocked that like he just went down just by himself.
Like, think about that experience. That's so much different than somebody be like, yo, I caught the ball, and then I was running, and I made one guy miss, and I scored a touchdown. He's just like, yo, I just put my shin through somebody's temple. That's like and another thing that's crazy, too, is, like, you're definitely going to be able to speak to this. But, like, playing other sports, right? Like, especially football. Like, football, for the average person who's sitting at home, football has a culture of toughness, right? Like you're trained to play through injury. Like things are supposed to hurt, but they don't hurt bad enough for you to stop playing. Where I'm talking about injuries like a jammed finger, somebody steps on your foot. But like in MMA, the type of injuries that people will fight through, like fam, if somebody breaks their nose in a soccer game or a basketball game, like they're not playing anymore. Like they're coming off. And like a sub is coming in, and like their night is over, right? Even football, football, you break your hand, it's pretty much over. Like your team's gonna get you out of the game, and that's another thing too, because like I said, like the injuries that hurt but don't hurt enough to stop. I can only imagine. I mean, like people talk about banging shins on leg kicks.
Oh, I have a nice little thing to show you guys. I'm gonna show it on, but it's right here. So it was worse than this.
Yeah.
So I got lazy during the fight checking his kicks, because that's like one of the things that like I like to do is to check people's kicks to kind of make them think of like stop kicking so much.
Right.
And this kid that I fought, the last kid I just fought, he just came back from Thailand.
Yeah.
And he was training at Tiger Muay Thai, so we all knew that he's gonna be very like Muay Thai-esque. He's gonna be heavy on the kicks. He's gonna be heavy on the combos. So our game plan was use the hands, check the kicks, and just keep lighting him up and take him down. So like one of the times, like I got lazy because I started getting cocky during the fight and didn't care. I had my hands down. Like that's a thing I need to stop. But I had my hands down and I started checking the kick, and I got lazy with the check. And one of the times it went in, and it's funny because in the moment, like you don't care about it. And it's funny because my coach had a bag of ice right after we're done, puts it on my leg. I'm like, looked at him, I was like, why putting that on my foot? It was just like, you're gonna need it. So I'm just sitting there. I'm like, okay, I take it off. I'm like, okay. And then time goes off. I see the doctor. Then we do the interview after. Then I go upstairs, sit down, have a couple nips. You know what I mean? Like, because it's celebration.
Yeah.
And then after, I'm just like, okay. All right, I see what he means. I was like, where's that ice pack?
Yeah. And another thing that happens to fighters a lot too that I see him, and this is just like my I definitely want to start training more, but like my idea of like things that hurt in an MMA fight, like my experience of it is just so minuscule to what it actually is. Like when I'm thinking about like, damn, what does it feel like to get kneed in the head, right? I think about like when I was like 12. 11, like wrestling with my cousins, and one of us like accidentally kneed us in the head or something, or you know what, like accidental headbutt. Like you ever be wrestling with like a nephew when you were like 7, and you guys headbutt, and you're like Fam, playtime is over. I'm broken. I'm broken. As like a 9-year-old, like I see fighters headbutt all the time, accidental, and I'm just like, yo, I know that hurts, bruh. I know that hurts. And that's another thing too. Is like another thing about MMA, you definitely need to have a good poker face.
Oh.
Like
Yeah,
I can imagine, like things must hurt like hell, and you just can't let anyone know it hurts like hell. Like
That's gotta be hard.
It's such a unique thing, yo. It's so, I don't. There's a reason I love watching it, and like participating in it. It's.
Speaking of poker faces, I remember the first fight. So we were going in like the third round, and I was beating up this kid. Like I was dominating everywhere he wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
He's standing up or dominating there. He started clinching with me, I dominated there. He started trying to go take down. I take him down, reverse counter wrestle him. Then it got to like the third round. I got very lazy. So I just didn't care, and like I'm all of a sudden I'm doing all of this. I'm looking at him. I'm like switching stances, like messing with him, and then he throws a double. I seen it coming too, and I don't know why I didn't get out of the way. He throws like a double jab, and I was like, the cross is coming after that. Cross hits me, boom. All I remember was my head going back like this, and the whole crowd going, oh. And I ran into the cage, and I looked at him, and then he threw another one, and I sat there, looked at him again, and all I remember hearing my coach is, Arthur, you need to move out of the way now. So he threw like a hook, I weaved under, and then I looked at him, I was like, okay, all right, this is a fight. I'm going to bring the fight to you. And I was like, let's do this.
Yeah.
So he kind of like, I could just tell like in that moment, he was just like, I just hit this kid with everything I had, and now he's willing to fight me back. I'm nervous, so now I'm getting him to back up. All I remember was just looking at him, and then I was just like, running towards him and throwing a jab cross kick, and like he kind of just backed off.
Yeah, it's crazy because this is another thing that you just alluded to, and that I hear MMA fighters talking all the time is like, you can, and you see it when you're watching if you have like a trained eye, but you can see when. You can literally see somebody else's will start to crumble away. Like their will to win, you can literally witness it disintegrate. Like, and he just described a sequence where it essentially did. I just hit you
it's
with,
all mental, it seems like.
I just hit you with everything I have, and you walked through it. So now what? And then you start pressuring, and it's just you can literally break people. But I want to touch on something real quick that, again, because I'm assuming a lot of people like. We're having a fairly in-depth MMA conversation, and we could be talking to people who have literally never seen a UFC fight, MMA fight in their absolute life. Yeah. And I mentioned something at the start of this episode. I said Arthur is the bantamweight 135-pound champion. And I think some people don't understand that, like, MMA fighters don't walk around at the weight that they're champion typically, right? Now, I don't know how much Arthur weighs, but I'm just guessing, right? That, like, I kind of want to get your take on weight cutting in the sport, right? Because, like, for the people at home that don't know this, we have, like, the idea is that you lose as much weight as you can and get as small and as shredded and as thin as possible, men or women's, to get to your fighting weight. For example, bantamweight is 135 pounds. But you might walk around at 160, and the goal is to be as big and as strong at your division as you possibly can be. Like, if you fight at your walking around weight, you're going to be fighting people who typically walk around much heavier than you and are just cutting the weight to meet you at that middle point, if that makes sense. Now, I bring this up to ask Arthur's thoughts on it because it can be a dangerous practice, obviously. People are cutting, weight cutting is the practice of essentially wrapping yourself in 10 robes and sitting in a sauna and dehydrating your body and trying to get all the liquid out and like drying out your muscles to like make this weight in like a unhealthy way at times, especially if you come in. If you're trying to sweat out 10 pounds in 2 days, you're gonna have like serious problems. Now, so could you speak on that, like how you approach it, and how, if you've ever seen, because there's stories all the time about people passing out mid-weight cut and like because you're pushing your body to the literal extreme. And that's the crazy thing too, is let's say Arthur drains himself of 15 pounds, for example, within a day, he might only have a day to replenish that. He's fighting 24 hours after extremely putting your body in essentially a survival mode where it starts eating itself to sustain energy. So could you touch on that? Like,
so I have like a really good of like staff and crew around me. That's what the
team sport.
I have like, so I have a nutritionist, and what we use is I don't know if you guys know who George Lockhart is. George Lockhart is the UFC nutritionist.
Okay.
He deals with everybody's weight cutting, so that's professionally done. So I have that in my arsenal, so it's cool. So what I do usually is the way we cut, we try to make sure we don't cut a lot at once. It's all little by little, but we make sure you get to like your shredded form, and then we make it like a 5-pound cut. We never try to cut like 10, 15 pounds in one day.
Yeah.
People do. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, I have like a really good like system going on, but like I'll go to weigh-ins. Like the first fight I had, the kid didn't make weight at all. And like so my thing was I was just out of it. I was just like, oh yeah, it's okay, it's whatever. We'll just fight. Doesn't matter. Thank God, one of my training partners and coach Jeff Perez, and my nutritionist were with me, Jacob Weeks.
Yep.
And they were like, go make him run that. So that made him more tired. So while I was rehydrating and getting everything back in my body, this kid was still depleting himself. He was running.
Trying to get the weight off.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, when we cut, it's all we're cutting is water. We're cutting water weight. Exactly. We're trying to make sure we don't cut any muscle, like, you know what I mean? Because if we cut too much, that's not be good, because the next day you still got to fight somebody.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing.
Still got to fight somebody.
Yeah. That's the craziest thing. And, like, you see, like I said, I'm a MMA UFC nerd, so I'll be watching the weigh-ins live, and you'll see, it's crazy. You'll see people literally stay in on the weigh-in scale, right? Let's say a strawweight woman is trying to make 115, or a man is trying to make 155. You'll literally see them, first of all, they're completely naked because they're extremely close to the limit. And I mean, they're on the scale shaking, trembling, looking flush in the face, looking sickly. And you're like, yo, first of all, most of them do eventually make weight, but if they do, you still have to understand that person's about to get locked in a cage. They ain't about to take time off and replenish. You have a limited amount of time to gain that weight back.
How big are the divisions between how much you can weigh?
Well, it's organizational. It's different organization to organization, but like at large, like what it is in the UFC, which is I would say is probably like the baseline. You have like mainly 10 pounds in between divisions. Like you have men's flyweight 125, bantamweight 135, featherweight 145.
So they just think 5 pounds would be too many divisions or something?
It can be. It gets like boxing. You have like 1 million belts, essentially.
Gotcha.
Instead of like...
I think they're trying to add a like 165 weight class.
That's like the newest thing.
The 125, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But there's like so many still like people who are still fighting for that 125.
I agree. What the UFC is doing with the 125-pound division we could talk about for a long time, because like they're getting rid of it ever since Demetrius Johnson lost. It's a whole thing. But yeah, it goes to 155 lightweight, and then it goes to 170 welterweight. So that's 15 pounds. Then it goes 15 pounds. It's pretty much 15 pounds from there on up, because after welterweight at 170, it goes to 185 at middleweight. And then you have 205 light heavyweight, and then you have 225 to 265 is heavyweight.
Are any more popular than others?
Yeah. I would
45,
say,
I would say, is very popular. 55.
Yes.
There's a lot more males that size.
Right.
So they're cutting probably from like 180, I would think. And there's a lot more males that weigh 180 pounds, so they're getting down.
Okay.
To that.
Right. And you have like the biggest selection of athletes. Like the average American man
that makes sense.
Can get to 5'10", 145, 155, and that's your talent pool is like the divisions are so stacked. Like in the UFC, like honestly, in my opinion, like the top 10 in 155 are absolutely world class. Yeah. And any single one of them is top of the world caliber athlete.
That thing you posted about Russian MMA fighters and how they like have a very crazy win rate.
Oh yeah, I saw a stat that said like it was like Dagestani MMA fighters.
Yeah, a
like
specific region.
A very specific region in the Caucasus Mountains of just their win percentage in MMA, professional MMA, is like 88% amongst like 20. Yeah, and it's crazy. And that's another great thing about UFC is it's such an international thing, right? Like, let's see if I can equate this. Like, obviously North America is known for, American football, right? And it's crazy that throughout the world, there's all these regions that are known for very specific disciplines in MMA. Like, obviously Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, obviously, and those Dagestani fighters we were just talking about, they're just all Sambo killers. They're all wrestling just monsters. Their wrestling is just next level. So like, it's just interesting to see specific regions of the world have specific talents that they bring to the sport. And that's the crazy thing too. Like, first of all, let me just say this. I know some of your coaches, right? Like Mike Bromberg.
Really?
Yeah. And like, do you train with like Coleman sometimes? You know Coleman?
Yeah,
He's in and out. He's in and out. He's in and out. Let me ask you how you break up your training. Like, how do you train? Are you jiu-jitsu practice Tuesday, Muay Thai practice on Thursday, wrestling on Friday, and then starting over, or are you like mixing it all together? Do you separate? Obviously, you separate your training. Like, you have a belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I have a belt in jiu-jitsu. But the thing is, though, I was naturally able to put things together before. Like, a lot of people struggle with it. It's weird to think that. Like, I know there's a couple people that told me like, oh, I have a problem with like getting the MMA together, like trying to mix like the boxing, the kickboxing, and all that. I don't know. I can't just do it. And like, it's weird because I will train. It depends on how I feel. Like, on the type of person that I'm fighting, then I'll switch it up. Maybe I'll work on certain things. Maybe I'll work on certain things like grappling.
Yep.
Because sometimes I will be really hyper aggressively on jiu-jitsu. Maybe I'll be anti-jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? I'll switch it up. Like, I'll be more looking for the land a lot of shots and sprawl and counter wrestle. Instead of me, like how it was the last fight I just had, the title fight.
Yep.
I was more like, okay, I'm going to throw a couple punches and shoot in. And then once I realized, I was just like, I could strike with this kid. So I just continued to strike with him.
Right. It's just, now how much of your, how long are your camps typically? Like, how much are you, like, how much time are you giving yourself before you sign that bout agreement to the fight? Like, do you prefer like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks? Or will you take a fight on short notice? You'll take a fight on 2 weeks.
First fight I took it on 2 weeks. I had 2 weeks notice.
Yeah. I mean, obviously weight is important on that too. Like, you don't want to put yourself in a position where, like he said, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to cut 15 pounds in a week. It's not ideal, but...
Yeah, the first fight, we were having a problem finding me opponents. Everybody would just pull out, back out, saying, no, I don't want to fight him. Could he find me another fight? And that was a big problem. So I just didn't, honestly, it kind of got me down because I was just like, I got ready for this, and I was training, and I was just like, oh, I'm going to have my first MMA fight. I was super excited. And everybody kept pulling out. But then, like, a couple of weeks before the event started, the promoter messaged my coach and said, hey, I have this guy from New York. He's looking for a fight at 135. We're like, boom, perfect. So then we took it, and that was it from there.
Yeah, that's the start. Damn, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. Like, again, like you definitely see it a lot, especially like in a situation like yours. Like, it must be so hard to get a fight. It must be so annoying, like you said, with people pulling out, like, and just dealing with that process, because I can't imagine. Let me ask this: how much does your training and fighting MMA like overlap with like your personal life? Like, because I can't imagine that is like a completely easy thing to mend together.
It's a very hard thing to mend. Actually,
because
it's funny just talking about that, because we were just talking about that today. It's crazy because people don't see what the stuff fighters have to go through. Like, the weight cut, the being like, because your mood's changing because you're not eating as much.
100%.
You're not drinking.
You're hangry as a MF, bro.
Gosh, and you're like thinking about this guy. You're like, I'm gonna go in there. Like, this guy's the reason why I'm not eating right now. And like, I get frustrated with it. It gets pretty bad, but and it's cool to have everybody else that fights around you, and like it's the support system that helps you get through it.
Yeah.
If you don't have the support system, it's very, very hard to do it on your own.
I can imagine. It's not a solo sport. You need a team. You need a whole team.
You post the best looking food.
Oh,
is that when you're cutting?
Oh, that's when I'm cutting. I'm thinking about food the entire time.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, how much do you actually restrict yourself, like, during fight week? Like, are you down to, like, 1,000 calories a day or something crazy? Like,
yeah, I really watch it. Like, I think on Monday, because I'll drink a bunch of water so that I can do the water flush. And then, because I'll start off with, like, on Sunday, I'll drink as much water as I can. A pound water. Keep pounding water. And then it goes down to, like, 2 gallons on Monday. And then slowly it just gets less and less. And then Thursday, we cut it off. Thursday night, we cut it off. And then we wait till the morning. I get in the sauna. I get that done. I mean, there's been only one time I didn't make weight. And that was that was really like depressing for me because going down those stairs, like I knew I was like tired too. I was going down the stairs, and I'm surprised I even had the energy to keep fighting, and I won that fight. But going down the stairs, like this is where like
Didn't feel
it's
right.
crazy. Yeah, it's just where like you're mentally like if you just tell yourself something to do and like you just pinpoint that like I'm gonna win this fight, I'm gonna keep going. That's what I kind of had to tell myself. But when I'm walking down the stairs, all I remember was just like looking at my coach and like just looking at him and like telling myself like I'm gonna lose this fight. Like that was like wow,
wild.
I'm about to get beat up in front of everybody right
It's
now.
wild.
And but I got into the fight and I was just like, you know what? Forget it. He's tired too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're both tired. So
Yeah.
what does it matter? You're better than him.
It's such a mental game.
Yeah.
It's such a mental game. Like the
That's so
average
true.
person, and a lot of people joke about this, like on Twitter and that like, there's a lot of like, just bleed MMA fans, right? So I'm talking about the people who are just in the crowd, just like I don't care what happens, I just want to see blood, and I want to see someone get knocked out cold.
Yeah.
Like, and that's kind of a disappointing thing, honestly. That there's fans out there like that. In my personal opinion, I get it. It is entertainment, but like it is also an art form, and that's another thing that's so beautiful about it too. Was it Meryl Streep that like at the Grammys was like took a jab at MMA? She was like, fighting is not art or something.
Oh,
it was some crazy.
Yeah, I
some,
remember that.
some crazy thing.
How is not an art?
Yeah.
A bunch of stuff together that's like it's the way you're fighting. Like we're all like if I brought in everybody in here and I trained you guys for 6 months.
Yep.
Everybody in this room
Would fight completely
would be
different.
fighting totally different.
Completely different. It's like painting. It's like it's human expression. And another thing that makes it beautiful too is it's so like in the moment.
Yeah.
It's so reactionary. It's so obviously you have a game plan in there and you're trying to do what you're trying to do, but it's like split second, game of
Yeah,
inches,
for
mistakes.
real.
You can't make a mistake. Have to be like, and that's another thing too. People talk about like being in a flow state. Like you've been talking about your fights and you like it's. I almost said it when you brought it up, but it's interesting that you hear your corner.
Yeah.
Like I've always wondered about that. Like how much do you actually hear your corner? You can't. I'd imagine you can't hear your corner while you're mid combination, right? Or like while your guard is up and while you're thinking body kick. Are you hearing your corner? Are you differentiating your corner from their corner? Like all that's going on.
Yeah. The thing is like. I have really good listening skills. That was one of the first things when we had the jiu-jitsu tournament. My coach was like telling me, and I'm like looking at him the whole time, like as we're doing stuff, and he was just like, "Wow, you listen very well." That's like a thing, and also your brain is like it's weird how weird your brain is, and it forgets stuff. Like I got hit with an overhand, and I remember telling my friends like, "I didn't get hit with that." They're like, "It's so weird how your brain like unregisters things, like to make sure it like protects you."
Blocks it off.
And like it's the part where like the listening part. It interests me because like I can pick up on important things. I can pick up on the most important things. Like,
Even in the heat of the moment.
especially when it was weird because we were on the other side of the cage on his side of where his corner was.
So you're like
and I was
20 feet
mounted.
away, 15 feet away from your corner at this point.
Yeah, and I'm far away from him. I still hear my coach, but for some reason, something registered in me to like listen to his corner. I hear his coach saying, elbow knee escape, and I was just like, oh, thanks. Okay, so this is what he's gonna try. So I pulled up his elbow and I got higher up in mount, and now the kid's looking at me like, oh, you heard that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's such a mental game, yo. It's so fascinating, especially because, again, we're talking about just two people going in there and fighting, yo. I'm going to try to separate you from your consciousness. I know you're aware. That's actually a good point. I just stumbled upon it. How often do you like to fight, or would you prefer to fight? And how what's been the worst like obviously you're 4-0, ain't took a L yet, so it ain't nothing crazy happened, but what's like the worst you felt the day after a fight? Like I felt like trash after football games, and that wasn't if we're being 100% honest. Like I was straight. So how often do you want to fight? Ideally,
Honestly, if you ask me personally, I'll fight every week.
yeah,
I'll fight
that's-
every week.
See, this is why it's a team sport. You just can't be out here every week, bro.
I can't be out here every week, but the thing is, though, what's realistically, I was different than other amateurs because usually they'll take a fight and they'll take a break, a couple of months off, or they'll take like 3 to 4 months off, and then they'll fight again. I was fighting every month or every other month, pretty much. You know what I mean? Which is not the best, but that's insane. Because the thing is, I wasn't taking damage.
Yeah.
And they
that's
just
the
kept giving me better and better people. So I was just like, as the time goes on, probably if I get to the UFC, once I do get to that point, I'm going to have to start picking my fights a little bit better when I fight. I would love to fight, like, probably this year. I think I started MMA probably like 6 to 7 months ago or 8 months ago.
Whoa. You started training 8 months ago, bro?
Started training MMA 8 months ago.
Okay.
I did.
Thanks for. I was like, bro, you first time you threw a punch was 8 months ago. This podcast about to be over right now. What?
No. That'd be crazy.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. I started like actually because before, you know how I said my coach, he wants you to have all the disciplines and wants you to be fundamentally set in every position because wherever they bring you, you got to have an answer. You don't want to get brought to the ground and then you start looking like a fish out of water. You're sitting there like, wow, this guy's holding on to me. I have nothing. I can do nothing.
Yeah.
He wants us to have an answer to everything. That's why I agree with Coach Stephen Whittier's method. It's the best method It's the SPG method. That's how Conor McGregor fights for the same organization we fight for. Just recently, I was out in Atlanta training with John Kavanagh. That is Coach. That's Conor McGregor's coach. That was really cool to see how he does things, and it was interesting because I was learning a lot from him, and I got to know the guy too.
I don't see. This is something I don't know. He just name dropped John Kavanagh, right? And that is Conor McGregor's coach. When Conor McGregor fights, John Kavanagh is in the corner, is the one coming into the octagon. I just want people to understand, we talk about our guests a lot, right? How we're always like, oh, we had a musical guest on, listen to their music before they blow up because you don't want to be a hipster and say, oh, yeah, I was listening to them way back in the day. This is another example of yo, pay attention because the people that he's name dropping, if you don't know MMA or you don't know UFC, SPG is one of the best gyms in the world, and that's really not disputed in the MMA community. That's widely accepted. And John Kavanagh, I'm trying to think of for these people that are just Patriots fans that just do nothing but just praise Bill Belichick, who's the John Kavanagh of the NFL? The John Kavanagh of the NFL, or I'm trying to think of a popular sports mind that I could equate to John Kavanagh. John Kavanagh,
it's so hard.
It's so hard. I got to form it like an SAT question. John Kavanagh is to MMA what John Madden is to football. Except John Madden's obviously hella old. But John Madden obviously a great X's and O's strategical, tactical mind when it comes to football. John Kavanagh is that when it comes to MMA. I just wanted to clarify that because again, I don't think people understand sometimes the gravity of what's kind of being said here.
So what's the path to the UFC?
The path to UFC? Well,
It's a good question.
Doing a great job right now with this. I'm trying to keep on. So I try to just take pretty much whatever fight I can. I try to take the toughest person, the top-ranked person. Right now in New England, I'm ranked the 4th.
Wow.
So out of all, and there is, I don't know, I saw there was 500 or something, and active fighters is 200 or something active fighters right now. And I'm one of the best in New England for the active fighters. So I just try to keep putting myself up there and putting myself on the line for things. I try to take the best thing, the toughest person. I never I was the type of person that would never shy away from something. If it was tough, I would go straight towards it.
Even think about that mentality. Not to cut you off, bro, but I don't know many people who ask for the hardest if I ask you who do you want to play one-on-one against basketball, this lineup of kids, are you gonna pick the 7-foot freak of nature that's clearly good at basketball, or are you gonna pick at the short kid who just dribbled off his foot on the side? You're gonna be I'll play him one-on-one. Imagine having the mindset of nah, give me that guy. That's the type of mindset he's talking about. All right, go ahead. So the path, the journey is taking the hard fights.
It's taking the hard fights. Right now as an amateur too, it's it's when you really want to test yourself. It's really when because the amateurs is when you never know anybody when the first time, especially when my first fight,
that's true.
Nobody really knew who I was. They're okay, this is an amateur, he's just starting off, this is his first fight. What is he gonna bring to the table? And after that fight, they're who is this kid? I remember them watching the video after. They're this kid came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And which is cool.
Yeah, no, the video is very impressive.
Oh, you watched it?
Yeah, I watched the video.
It's Josiah asked the question so how do you get to the UFC, right? And I feel that's a really hard question to answer because
is there no defined pathway? Do you get
There's
invited?
exactly. There's no defined pathway. So like you can say, how do I make it to the NBA? It's obvious. Play at an elite school, go to college, kill it in college at a major basketball D1 school, enter the draft, get picked, you're in. And obviously in MMA, it's like extremely more convoluted and complicated. I'm going to bring up something real quick along this line. We can talk about the path to the UFC because obviously, and it's happened for kids around here. Like, it's happened for kids in Arthur's position. Don't think that this is some pipe dream that ain't never going to happen. Like, this is very realistic. Because the UFC has scouts all over, and they pay attention to smaller organizations and champions and who's doing what. But I just want to make a point that people, again, might not understand because we're saying UFC and I'm comparing it to other professional major sports organizations like the NFL. I would like to point out that MMA fighters are criminally underpaid, specifically in the UFC. All right? Like, I love the UFC. I watch it every weekend. I'm a fan. I buy the pay-per-views. But, like, in the NFL, the NBA, there's unions and players associations that negotiate and bargain for bargaining agreements that are like...
Are they contract employees?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like wrestling?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like...
Okay.
Like, the players in the NBA and the NFL get 51% of the general revenue of the organization. Yeah. And in the UFC, it's roughly fighters getting...
They're technically freelance or something, right?
Yeah, they're technically subcontractors. Like, they're treated like subcontractors, not actual employees, which is a major problem. And, like I said, they only get... The whole pool of fighters in the UFC only get 25% of the revenue that the UFC generates, as opposed to the NFL, MLB, or NBA that the players get. The player pool gets 51%. At least the majority.
You said there's other organizations. Are there other ones that are better?
Well, they're better, but that's really not the issue because they're smaller.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
So, like...
Because you're getting less money anyway.
Yeah, that's...
half of that much less.
Yeah, it's kind of a... I just really wanted to point that out. It's kind of an insidious practice. Like, again, because what LeBron James is leaving on the floor Sunday is a lot less valuable than what a fighter can leave in the cage. And that's, like, important to reckon with. And that, since we're kind of on that, like... What was the worst you ever felt waking up after a fight? Like, have you ever, like, and this is something that happens in football a lot, and I'd imagine it's not an SBG of all gyms, but, like, knowing your body, like we know that, like, brain injuries, we're talking about a sport that could very possibly lead to brain injuries later in life. Now, my stance on this has always been, we're here for a good time, not a long time, okay? We're on a floating rock, hurtling through space, right? If you want to do something that potentially could harm you, bro, do it. Like, I have no issues against it. I want to do it. I want to box. I want to train MMA. I have no problem with that. But, like, do you think about that? Is that something that's, like, in the back of your mind? And like I said, you guys are training like professionals, like world-class athletes. So, like, you guys aren't taking unnecessary damage in the gym for free, which is just crazy. But is that something that's, like...
Yeah, it dawns all our minds. The thing is, though, our coaches are smart. So I also trained up in Boston with Crew Mark Delgarati. So if you guys don't know who Crew Mark Delgarati is, he's the ambassador of Muay Thai. He brought Muay Thai to America.
Damn.
This man is
so crazy. Which is so crazy. If you, like, we're talking about, this is another thing, we're talking about fighting disciplines that have been around for hundreds of years. That come, Muay Thai is from Thailand. People in Thailand have been fighting Muay Thai style it's the same with babies. Yeah, for hundreds of years. Like, you hear about people in Brazil, you're born and they put a soccer ball in your crate and you just start playing soccer. It's like, in Thailand, you're kicking down banana trees or something, like, by 8. All right? Like, we're talking about cultural things. So, him bringing up Delgarati is just another one. It's like, you guys got to understand, we're talking about, like...
Legit people.
Legit ambassadors in the sport that you can Google and my bad, I keep cutting you off. But
no.
Talk about the training.
I love how much you know.
Talk about the training methods of it. Like, of avoiding unnecessary damage in training so that you don't have these long-term injuries.
So, since I have all these, like, world-class coaches around me, but the cool thing is there's been trial and error. And as the more the sport starts to grow and the more the sport starts to get popular, the smarter everybody starts to get. So, instead of, like, old school way was we go in there and we go bang, we gotta throw hands and they fight.
Right, hard spar 3 times a week or something crazy.
Yeah, they go with a lot. But now we only have like a hard sparring like certain times a week. It's once a week or twice a week. You know what I mean? It's never more than 2 hard sparring sessions. Right. And we don't spar, like, even when we use the MMA gloves, we're pulling everything.
Exactly.
And we practice light, and we don't practice sparring every time because you're not going to get better from just me and you fighting because we're not going to be really practicing.
Right,
We're gonna
well-
be more trying to beat each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So there's
yeah.
no learning.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we do it is we have a lot of drilling. Like if we drill specific things that would happen in a fight, like wall work.
Yep.
Learning how to fight against. Most of you guys don't know. Fighting against a wall and having another human being on top of you against a wall, it is one of the hardest things to do to get somebody off of you. It
Yeah.
looks like, oh, they're just sitting there, they're chilling.
Yeah.
No,
So
this
much
person's
going on.
driving into you to take you down. Like, there's no saying about it, and you feel it. You
Right.
feel there's so many different types of body types in MMA that you feel. Like, you can feel somebody that's just, like, quick and active. Then you feel those people that are clampy, and as soon as they get a hold of you, you're like, oh, okay, this is what everybody's been talking about. You're strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're very smart about how we train. Like we're specific. Like we'll drill like wall work. We'll drill like
Right.
grappling. We'll drill like hitting on the ground. But we're not smashing each
Right.
other. We're
You're not-
practicing.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll
You're not
add
leaving the gym
resistance.
concussed every day.
No.
Like,
You
that-
still gotta continue because especially when you get to the higher levels, this is your job now.
yeah.
This is how you make money. This
How
is
you
how
feed
you
your
feed your
family.
families.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why are you gonna hurt yourself or why are you gonna put yourself through that? You know what I mean?
And it's crazy because he's saying, like he said, we train with professionals, we train world class, and he alluded to it. Arthur alluded to it. People didn't train like that for a very long time. Like there were a lot of there's like notorious gyms. I can't really think of them off the top of my head that are like professional gyms that are like Team Alpha Male.
Yeah.
Guys from Uriah Faber, T.J. Dillashaw, Cody, used to be Cody Garbrandt. We're talking about
Look at you.
We're talking about a gym that like it was dog eat dog. Like you were leaving there like banged up if you weren't up to snuff. And it was again, it's just so fascinating to see like how different training methods, who has the best, what is the best method? Maybe that is the best method. Maybe that does create straight dogs in the ring. Like it's a completely different thing. Now, this is a kind of a because obviously we're talking about different disciplines and we're talking about specialists and stuff, but like what was your path to MMA, right? Like a lot of people, there's so many different types of martial arts. We have people that start Taekwondo point fighting and then they learn the next discipline and then they learn the next discipline, but you always, most fighters I feel like revert back to whatever they learned first. Like whatever you learned first is your specialist. Like if you started learning jiu-jitsu, right, like your instincts in a fight are always going to be to try to pull a triangle or an armbar or a submission or a guillotine or because that's like so deeply ingrained in you, right?
Yeah.
What was your disciplinary path?
See,
Like, did you start boxing at 12 and then it became jiu-jitsu at 14 and then like...
so this
I
is
feel
the
like you
funny
started
thing.
when you were at Cozy.
Kinda. So, I'm a rare case. I wasn't like the kid that started karate when he was young. I wasn't like I did boxing all my life. It wasn't like I
Yeah.
did jiu-jitsu all my life. I kind of like I went into the gym. I picked up the things I like. I was able to pick up a lot of things.
What got
very
you in the
well.
gym? Why'd you go to the gym for the first time?
I don't know. I just was because I've always seen it and I always wanted to do it. And then I had my friend Elijah. He's like my best friend. That's like my brother. He got me into it. He's like, dude, you should definitely try this. Or like it's you would love it.
Yeah.
Like a little bit at first, I was like, I don't really want to do
Learned
that.
a little bit of
Like,
what?
like try out jiu-jitsu, try out Muay Thai.
Okay.
And like, so I did the foundations class. I was like, wow, I love this stuff. So I started going a lot. And then the coach came up. He's like, you ever think you would ever want to fight? And then I was just like, I don't know. So then one day I came up to him. I was like, I want to fight. He's just like, all right. He's just like, follow my methods.
Yeah.
And I'll take you there.
Yeah. It's great
And ever
coaching. That's great under your wing coaching from like, again, some of the best minds.
It seems super professional there,
Yeah,
especially
oh,
from
yeah,
the Facebook page. Like you guys
We
post
treat it.
great content.
The thing is, though, we're not like every MMA gym. We allow everybody. Like, it could be soccer moms. It could be kids who don't really want to fight. It could be guys that are working a
self-defense,
9-to-5 job. Or it could be people like me that are fighters.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? So it's cool. So we have, like, it's a great organization that SBG has formed. It's amazing. Like, I went down to an SBG camp. That's where John Kavanaugh was and all these guys. And it was cool to see. I'm like, oh, a lot of these guys run these camps the same way. They train their guys the same way. And they have the same method and same approach to it. That's why we all have success. Like we all we don't have much fighters at SPG, but what we have is quality.
I believe it.
Everybody
I believe it's a great
has
gym.
Jeff Perez. That was one.
And this is in Wareham we're talking about.
Yeah,
for the
for real.
Wareham,
You
for
could go there.
WCTV. Yeah, you could go there. We're talking about a place, a place 5 minutes down the road. This ain't far away.
Yep.
Just 5 minutes down the street. Let's wrap it up on maybe like a lighter note, funny note. Like, I just want to know what's that reaction like? Like, how many times have you been like, let's say you're 3-0, you just won your 3rd fight, right? And you guys are out celebrating, like, let me know how many times has someone been like, oh, word, you're a fighter, huh? Yeah, like, we would have won state championships if coach put me in. But what, you box a little bit? Yeah,
Oh God.
I've thrown my hands a little bit. Like, what's the closest you've had to come to banging out an amateur somewhere? Like, do you get that? Do you feel that energy?
I feel that energy. It's not. It happens, but not too much lately. But like, it happens the most in the gym because we'll come in, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a street fighter. I've done this. And
We're
we're
like,
like,
all right,
oh,
yeah,
really?
word,
Yeah, really.
yeah.
And we hear that a lot. And it's like people come in, they'll like tell us this, and my coach will kind of look at like, oh, did you? And we'll have to almost like go with them, kind of show them like this stuff works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But I will be fighting on June 15th.
Shout it out.
Defending my title.
Defend it.
Yeah, I'm defending my title. And
First title defense.
This is my first title defense.
Let's
so
go.
I'm pretty excited. This is gonna be a good fight.
Fam, Trip Off This is gonna be in the building.
Yes.
Trip Off This might do an episode ringside. Alright? Like we might get Arthur might hit somebody with a left hook, and we might get blood splattered on the Josiah's gonna have blood on his white button up, like, oh, this is crazy. Quick shout out to everyone at WCTV, behind the camera, making it happen, out in the offices, encouraging it, editing it. Salute to you. Arthur said he's got a fight June 15th.
June 15th.
Where's that at?
Memorial Hall, Plymouth, at Cage Titans. It's in Massachusetts, so definitely advise you guys to be there. It's going to be a great night of cards. A great night of fighters. There's going to be some UFC vets in there, like Joe Giannetti. He's trying to get back into the UFC.
Bro, somebody said I look like Joe Giannetti.
I don't see it.
Kinda. If I showed you a picture, there's a certain picture where I look just like Joe Giannetti. But yeah, UFC vet. He said it all.
Yeah, a lot of my
Not to
partners
cut you
will be
out.
fighting there.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a great card because my training partner is gonna be there. My friend Pete Luciani, my brother, he's gonna be making
Pete,
his
shout
return.
out Pete.
You know Pete?
Hell yeah, I know
He's
Pete.
making his return. I'm excited
Really?
to see that.
He's fighting June 15th?
Yes,
All right, we in the building. All right, Trip Off This. Signing off. Thank you.